Okay. All right, so I think we are live. Yep, we are live. Welcome everybody to part three of our relationship series. I'm so excited. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have all of us on tonight except David. David had a family emergency, so he was unable to attend, but it's still going to be such an amazing conversation. So I'm going to go in first to introduce myself. My name is Maxine Gooden. I am the founder and director of Women of Valor 74, a women's empowerment program, and also Job World 18, which is a mentoring program for young men between the ages of 12 and 18. And joining me as my co-host is Mr. Eric Marsh. Eric?
Thank you, Maxine. Thank you. Thank you. Applause, applause. No need to applause, just throw money. Uh, my name is Eric Marr Sr. I am the co-founder, executive director of the Fathering Circle. And I'm honored to be here with you all tonight for the Real Talk Relationship panel. This is the third one in a series, and it is going to be fire because we are bringing men and women together to have this conversation. So if you missed any of the first two, check in with Maxine. Make sure you check out the Women of Valor 74 YouTube page, and let's get into it.
Let's go. So now we're going to just go around, starting with Rana first, then we'll hit Lamar, Daryl, and Shanita. Allow them to introduce themselves and what they do.
Hi, my name is Rana Abdel. I am the owner and founder of Rana Realty Group. I am a realtor here in Pennsylvania and soon to be in Delaware and New Jersey. I work with, a lot of first-time home buyers and first-time investors to help in some upliftment of the community, generational wealth, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, excellent. Hey everybody, how y'all doing? It's my pleasure to be on this panel again and be a part of the series for the third time. My name is Lamar Smith, aka Relentless Lamar. I'm a serial successful entrepreneur. I'm a relationship author as well. And this is the third part of the series. I'm intrigued. Being on both parts for everyone on here has been really a great experience, and I'm looking forward tonight to be the same thing, exciting. So let's go. Let's make it happen.
All right. Y'all know how I like to start it off. Yo, what's good it all? We are in the building, and I'm so excited to be able to be on this panel tonight. And look, I don't see anybody on here who's not going to bring fire. It's going to be amazing tonight. But as for me, I am the new founder and owner of an organization called The Floor Is Yours Network, and it is on Roku TV. I am also a purpose life coach. So what I do is I help people find out what they want to do in life after they've come out of a storm, kind of going into a new part of their life. And I'm excited to be on here. So thank you for allowing me to come on here. It's about to be crazy. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is my second time coming onto the show. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Shanita Coleman. I am the CEO of Beautiful Intelligence, LLC. I am an author of 2 children's books that's on Amazon.com. And I also write programs for our youth as well as facilitate the program. So,
Right.
and I'm a singer.
I'm so grateful. Thank you guys again for coming on board for our third part 3 series. And if you guys, whoever's watching, if you didn't catch our first 2, you can catch them on Woman of Valor 74 YouTube page. Our first one was with the men. It was called Why Men Don't Talk. Our second one was called What Women Want. And man, it was fire. So now this one again is Real Talk. And in this panel, we are bringing everybody together because the purpose is to dig a little deeper in relationships and have some communication with all of us together, male and female, so we can get to the nitty gritty and, understanding of each other in relationships. So it's about to go down, y'all. Y'all ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Let's go. So my first question is, and if forgive me if I didn't say this, but David J. Lane was supposed to join us today, but because of a family emergency, he was unable to join us. But we're gonna hold it down for him anyway, so it's still gonna go down, right? So my first question is, For the men, communication. What do you guys think are the differences with men and women communicating in relationships or even dating? Who wants to take that first?
I'm
Eric, you
leaving it
smiling
to
a
you.
little too hard.
I'm smiling, but I'm gonna leave it. I'm co-hosting, so you told me to tone it down and make space for the panelists. So that's what I'm gonna do. But I got a lot to say.
I know.
All right, so I honestly think emotion leads the conversation a lot, in my opinion. I really think from my own perspective and my own opinion, I think when women have an idea of going into like when they're going into an argument, I'm trying to get this together. Here I come. But when they're going into an argument, they're basing the argument off an emotion, not necessarily, in my opinion, logic, right? And like I feel like the argument starts with a certain topic and it end up being about something completely different that we wasn't talking about based on the emotion, like based on what you like things that you had hitting, and all of a sudden there's all these other things popping up. And it's like, all right, so what is the base topic here? Like, are we arguing about the original subject or are we arguing about everything under the moon? Like, help me out.
Ooh, okay.
Who wants to chime
Lamar.
into that?
Lamar.
Yeah, yeah, Dow made some great points there. For sure. Well, communication always, like if communication is the key to everything. How you communicate, like whether it's verbal, whether it's your body language, whether it's like just communication comes in different forms. So, from that aspect, like Dara was saying, when you have communication and then you dealing with, I think as a whole, as a race and being minorities, like sometimes we don't have the emotional intelligence as other people. Not to say that we're not, and the reason why I'm saying that is because because it's something that we had to learn and generalize because a lot of the trauma and different things that we dealt with. So a lot of times we just react, like we just react to something, and it's like, all right, boom, 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 and then sometimes we have to come back later and just kind of bring it back. You know what I mean? So as just saying that, I think that it's very important to make that clear. It's very important to understand that no matter what's happening, that you talk it out and you lay it out and you layer it out each time. Like you just layer out different things, like you cutting through an onion. There's different layers that you have to get out and understand and let them know. So yeah, it does, and it can impact the relationship big time.
Eric, you want to chime in?
I'm a little reluctant or hesitant to chime in because I'm interested in hearing what the ladies' response is to those, right? Because I feel like, again, this is the root of the question, right? When it talks about communication, are we just sitting here just listening to each other pontificate, or is there going to be a dialogue? So I want to hear what the women's response is to what they've just heard the men share.
Well, I
And they do
think
have their game faces on. I'm sorry. Y'all look real serious. Like it's not a test, but
Nigga, like she about to beat somebody up. She need it.
I'll get you, Lamar. I'll get you. Go ahead, Ron.
I think that it can go either way. I've definitely had communications with men where I felt like they were acting off of emotion and I was sticking to logic. I think it comes a lot with being mature, wanting to get to a solution. I mean, you're not going to be right all the time. So if your main focus is to be right, then you're going to come from a defensive stance and you're not going to really listen and you're not going to really hear what your partner is trying to tell you. But if you are coming from a more mature stance, and we're here to bring the maturity back to relationships, right? So I think once you kind of move past that and you have a male partner, that is mature, female partner that's mature, same sex partner, whatever it is. But both people have to be willing to work and both people have to be willing to understand what the problem is. I don't think it's a woman thing or a man thing. I think it's a maturity thing, personally.
Okay. Shanita.
I know I definitely have issues with communication. Sometimes, if there's a situation going on, I'm stuck. So it goes back to what Lamar was saying about, some of the traumas and everything that some of us have experienced. But at the same token, I do think that men use it as an excuse to say, oh, why we have to deal with, this many things, when it's that one thing. But that one thing could be stemming from just
Mm-hmm.
one thing, and I think that if men, know that their partner or women, because it's either or, is struggling with that communication piece, the maturity piece can come in and, whatever somebody's missing on the other side can help the other person be able to better communicate the situation.
I like that.
All right, can I? I
Go
know
ahead,
you
Derek.
want to, Eric, real quick. I know you want to go,
Go ahead, Derek.
but I think the good thing about having shows like this is we can, from our own opinion, we can formulate an idea of how to fix the issue when it comes to communication. Because I think the people that are watching this, they're listening intently to try to gain something from the conversation, right? And so I just wanted to say, it's very important, starting off, and then I'll pass it to E. It's very important to understand your stance. Like, you got to understand what point of view you're bringing to the table. Because I think sometimes when we are communicating, it's hard to really understand which or convey a message that you're really trying to speak about, right? Especially when you're frustrated with a situation. It's really hard for some people to communicate with themselves, how they can actually convey a message properly for the other person to understand without making that other person upset.
Wow, that's a great point. That's a great point. And it is a great point to start as an individual, whether you're in a relationship or not. How well are you communicating what you're trying to get off? And I'm going to jump right into my question rather than making a statement, because I see Max.
Yeah, someone I just wanted to Drilly 81 said exactly, Rana. Listen to understand instead of responding first. So I just wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And so thank you for reading that comment, because that relates to my question. It's a little facetious, and I think Rona touched on it a little bit. But my question is, why is it that women assume that men don't talk? Maybe, could it possibly be that women aren't listening?
Okay, Eric.
Look,
Can I jump in?
Lamar like trying to ease out the
I gotta. I'm gonna tell you, like, I will say maturity, as you grow older and you mature, you truly start to learn to listen, to really hear and understand. When I was younger, I was hearing, but I wasn't really hearing. I'm like, whatever, and I would just go on. But as the age that I am now, and being in different relationships, I have learned to quiet myself and really listen. And then what I do is I repeat back what they said so that I truly understand what they're saying and I can answer as I should, or give them a response that I should.
I see a lot of shaking heads on that. Shanita, I see your head shaking. Is it, do women listen when men talk or when they express their feelings?
Um, I think like what Max was saying, when you're younger, I don't think you really, because it's all about like what it is that your intentions for the person are. But when as you get older and you start to really see like patterns of things, and then you start to say, okay, he's telling me what he wants or what he's going to do, or he's telling me. But as far as I do think that our men struggle with um communicating. I do think they struggle. I do think that they at times, um and this is not everyone, but majority of them struggle with being real with themselves. And it's an issue in relationships. Sometimes you won't know if a person struggled with anything growing up because they're like, no, my childhood was okay. And it's not the case. So I think that some of our men, you know, do struggle with being all the way real with themselves, and really in tune with, because it's at times the macho attitude, like, I'm good. instead of, no, well, I did have an issue with this, when I was a kid, or, my mom wasn't in my life like I wanted her to be, or it's just so many different, things that I think at times men leave out or that they don't want to talk about. And so it's like, okay, I'm not struggling with anything.
Well, before we go to Rona, I want to pick that apart a little bit because you said something. I think you just threw kind of a bombshell in there, right? With that, a lot of people wouldn't notice. We're talking about relationships, but you said men don't keep it real with themselves. So how does that relate? Keeping it real with yourself to communicating with your partner. What's the difference? What's why is that more important than just being straightforward with your partner from the gate?
Because if you're not real with yourself, then how are you going to be real in a relationship? How are you going to have a healthy relationship with anybody if you're putting up a facade?
Boom. That was it. Exclamation point. She just dropped the mic. Rona, anything you want to add to that?
Kind of back to my original point, are we having this conversation so that I can be right and you can be wrong? Or are we having this conversation to really have an understanding of what my issues are and what your issues are so that we can come to an understanding and elevate in our relationship? And like I said, that comes from the maturity because, like Maxine was saying, when we're younger, we just think we just want it our way, and a lot, that's human nature, I guess. But once you get to the point where you're like, no, I want to understand my partner, I want to make sure that their needs are met and my needs are met. Let's talk about it. Let's make sure that we are on the same page and you can understand where I'm coming from. I can understand what you're coming from because no matter how connected you are with your partner, we still all have our own thoughts and our own feelings, and you don't ever know what's going on in somebody's head. So, let's put it all out there, put it all on the table, and hopefully come to a good understanding and elevate from there.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
point.
Max, before I
I
pass it back
think
to you, let
I'm
me just
sorry.
share real quick, Daryl, because and actually I'm glad that you spoke up because I wanted to like address this myth, right? That only women argue or communicate from emotions. The reality is we all communicate from our emotions. The difference is that men are tapping into different emotions and or expressing those emotions differently rather than verbally, right? So if you see your man is just like grumpy all the time or just come in and don't want to be bothered or lock himself, that's its form of
Something else
communication,
going
right?
on.
Slamming the door and banging on the walls and stuff, that's a form of communication, right? There's some emotion or something underneath there. The
Yeah.
difference is we aren't as black men taught to open up and articulate and share it verbally, right? And I think that's I'm hoping that we're sharing this information so that the women that love us will understand that and recognize that it's not something to hold against us. It's not something that we are incomplete. We're all incomplete as human beings, but we all need. One of the things that I always share is that relationships are like mirrors, right? It's not until you get into that relationship where you start seeing yourself and you start seeing those issues. So that's Shanita. That's the reason why I want you to dig into that. Why is it real with be? Why is it more important to be real with yourself, right? Because that's that mirror part. Your partner is showing you. A lot of times, men, we think, oh, we could just tell her anything and it'll be cool. But women pick up on all that like subtle lies and everything. So, Max, I want to pass it back to you.
Yeah, I
Thank
wanted to. Yeah, I wanted to just share this. Talking about the communication piece, Eric, is that like you said, we all act on emotion, but we just do it differently. And some advice I feel that is good for women, and what I have learned is not so much as to get upset or angry about how he's acting out his emotion, or not to get upset because I feel like I'm not able to help him the way that I think he needs to be helped, but to just be like, listen, what do you need from me in this moment? And I don't think we pause to ask that question. And when we do, it calms them down because you're really saying, what can I do? That way he'll say, I might need my alone time, whatever it may be. But I think that's just so important in the
And
communicating piece.
can I add something to that just from the male perspective? And I don't know if Lamar, Daryl, you agree with this or not. But sometimes when you ask that question, sometimes we don't have the slightest idea. But what it does is it forces us to reflect.
Yes.
and slow down. It's like, wait a minute, what am I mad about? Like what would make this situation better? And sometimes it's just the fact that I just didn't want to be wrong. And something revealed to me that I was wrong in that way, or something just didn't go my way. So that's important. I share that for the men who are listening, because sometimes when we get to stuck like that, that can sometimes generate another like negative feeling. It's like that confusion that can just add to the anger or disappointment. So we have to understand the potential responses that come up when we ask those questions.
Yeah. I just want to go back just a tad bit because I think there's a lot of pressure on Black men to appease our women in such a way where sometimes it's hard for us to communicate that. You know, it's hard for us to really find out what feeling or how to control you as a Black woman, because you guys are strong, right? And you guys do are independent in a lot of areas. So from a men's perspective, it's like, all right, I have to prove myself to you every single day, and then I have to listen to what you're telling me, take that in, and try to conform in such a way where I'm making you happy. And it's really hard because we're trying to play a tug of war with how to properly communicate with you without making you too angry, because I think that's what makes us angriest is when we can't make you when we can't make you happy, we get frustrated, right? And when we're trying to get a point across, sometimes it don't go across as we're trying to say it. And so we do lead off of that anger, and we do lead off of that frustration because we don't know how to communicate properly with you. And so all we know at that point is like, yeah, I'm upset, so I gotta do something with this anger. And so I think from a societal aspect, it's really hard for Black men to really find out what it is that you guys want now, because there's so many things that are coming into and maybe it's just not men, it's men and women, but it's so many things being poured into you guys, maybe from TV, social media, about what a real man really is. Like, what is a real man? What is a real man supposed to be? How does a real man look? How does a real man sound? You know what I mean? So these are questions that we really juggle with, that we all need to answer. Is like, what is right about communicating? You know? So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I see Shanita's head was like all over the place. But go ahead, Shanita. I want to see what's your response.
Well, first of all, why are we as people trying to make other people happy?
Mm-hmm.
We can't make
Talk about
anybody happy.
it.
We can add to, each other's
Mm-hmm.
happiness, but we can't make other people have to be happy, by themselves. And that's where the healthy piece comes in. There was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot. But that's the main thing, for us
Yeah.
to know that as people, you'll go crazy. You can't make other
Mm-hmm.
people happy. Happiness has to come from within.
Mm-hmm.
And oh, that's the other thing I wanted to say about, like, just be you. Pressure, there's such, like you were talking about, in society, such a stigmatization, so much stigma on how a person is supposed to be, how a woman is supposed to act, how a man is supposed to act, how a man is supposed to treat a woman. Just treat everybody good. Just be you, treat people good. and
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing your response to it, and I think, it may come off like, okay, it's more complicated than that, but it really just is that. It really
Mm-hmm.
just is that. And if you can't add to a person's happiness, then why even,
Mm-hmm.
continue with the situation, you
Mm.
know?
Daryl.
So that's just,
And I love that you said that, Shanita, because I
thank
feel the
you.
same way. People have to come into the relationship whole. So many times you see people that get into relationships because they're missing something, they're lacking something. And then that's when you get into those situations of, well, you're supposed to be this because this is what I thought this was supposed to be. And I think it's a lot of pressure. I think it's a lot of pressure on men. I think it's a lot of pressure on women to be something that they're not. I agree 100%. Be yourself. Don't don't put on an act, don't put on a show. Be who you are. And I also think that if you know that you're the type of person that you don't do certain things, right? I mean, anything. You could, you know, I don't know, splurge, whatever it is, then look for a partner that doesn't hold that so highly. You know what I mean? We run into problems. If I know that I am not the type of woman that cooks 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, I'll get takeout, I'll let my man cook, whatever, then I'm not going to look for a man that's what they want because I know I'm not going to ever measure up. And I think that I see it a lot with men where they're, running behind somebody who's materialistic when you know that that's not really what you want to do. You don't want to spend all your money. You're saving your money for your investments or whatever it is, and that's fine. So you got to find somebody that thinks the same way as you, and they're out there. But it's like, that game the toddlers play where they put the circle in the hole and it's a star hole, but a circle piece. Like, no, you got to find the piece that fits. You can't just take any piece and hope it goes into the hole.
Or
That's
try to make it fit.
try to make
Is
it
there
fit
a perfect,
exactly. I'm sorry?
is there ever a perfect piece?
A perfect for you piece. Yeah, I think so. I mean, nobody is 100% ever going to be 100% perfect. We're all individuals. We're all humans. I mean, I don't know how many people there are in this world. Everybody is an individual. Nobody is the same. But there's going to be somebody that's a closer fit to what you need than somebody else. And I think that's kind of the challenge, right? Let's find the person that's for me, the right fit for me.
Hmm.
Let me chime in. I
Yeah,
always say this is
I'm sorry.
Well,
no,
Maxine and then Daryl.
okay. I just wanted to say, like, when I started looking at things, like, because I used to be like, okay, well, this is what I want, but they're not fully what I want, but I'm gonna go ahead anyway. It never works out for me. It never works
No.
out. And so I've come to the point where I have my main meal. My main meal, it has to be this, it has to be that, it has to be this. Now my desserts are I can do without that, or I can have it if I want. You know what I mean? So when it comes to that relationship, he has to have my core values. He has to have that. He has to be that main meal that I want. Anything outside of that is but if you don't have the core values, I'm not done with it. I need to have this plate this way, So it's just that I think we have to have that main thing. Like, what do we really want, and not try, like, as Rhonda mentioned, try to take this puzzle piece and make it fit, because it never fits. It never is gonna fit.
Daryl, I want to hear what you got. I want to hear you were shaking your head earlier and you asked that question about is anyone ever perfect? What's your thoughts in terms of what you just heard?
Yeah, so I think God made us all our own individual for a reason, you know. And I truly and honestly feel like there's a yin and a yang to every situation. It's always going to be good and bad, right? And like if I'm not mistaken, your name Rana, you talked about being able to take some good with the bad. No, Max, you said this. You got to be able to pick out what you like over what you don't. And some people they hone in on like those small things that trigger a negative reaction and don't really fully go into a situation looking for what could actually possibly be something right. You know what I mean? I think those triggers is something that sets people off so quick that they don't even give it a chance. And another thing that we're not taking into consideration is time. So when a lot of people, we change over time. We're not the same person that we are in the beginning of the relationship. Like, we're going to change. We're going to become somebody different based off our experiences. So although those puzzle pieces might fit now, you then have to grow along with somebody so you guys can always fit together at some point.
Lamar,
I don't know. Hopefully I made sense in saying that.
Yeah. Lamar, you wanted to add into that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add in a couple of things. Because you guys are making some great points. I want to talk about. I know the word pressure came up. and like pressure to be this man, pressure to be this woman. And my whole thing is like, coming from being a former collegiate athlete, like pressure only comes if it's something that you really don't want to do, from my perspective. If you really don't want to do it, then you're going to feel pressure to do X, Y, and Z. When you lay down and you talk about the foundations of a relationship or what makes a successful relationship, then you talk about that. But I always ask this question. I ask this to everybody. Who name 5 examples of relationships that you've seen that was coming out that you deemed as being positive and thorough?
You took my question. That was my question, Lamar.
Okay, my bad. But I'm ahead of the game. Listen,
I'm just gonna ponder on it until we get to you.
Yeah, I got
later,
to
right?
Well, I wanted to ask that. We might as well flow into it.
Well, because I wanted to add on to what the conversation was saying. But Lamar, you finished?
Yeah, and I just wanted to make a point about I know Shanita and Rana was talking about being happy and like people making you happy, and I totally agree with that. You got to be with somebody who's going to enhance your happiness. Either somebody going to enhance your happiness or decrease it. But if you got a spirit of joy inside of you, nobody can take that. So if you real and you believe in who you are, no matter what somebody brings the issue, even with issues in life they bring to your table, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's not going to affect you, but you don't maintain and lose focus for who you are and where your heart is and where your mind is at. You just keep going and doing what you got to do. So in essence of it, a lot of times we do, some people, that's why I correct people. I correct my 6-year-old daughter. Like, somebody, this person ain't make you mad. No, you allowed that person. You gave that person too much power, in that essence, in that situation. Now, somebody can say something and you can, they can call me the N-word or whatever. And, it'll trip for a minute. But in essence, if you know what it is, because if I act out unintelligent emotions, then I can end up in jail or something serious can happen. So that's why a lot of times we got to think and do what we got to do. So I just wanted to add that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to go back. So first of all, starting back where Daryl started with this idea of, who we choose to be in relationships, and I love what you guys been saying. But what it boils down to, what I'm hearing is that we're talking about maturity, right? And development, because nobody starts off with this level of maturity. That all of y'all give great examples, right? Take me back to y'all teenage years and tell me that y'all was acting like this as teenagers, right? The majority of us start off with very self-centered reasons. It goes back to our last question where we recognize that when we are in an argument, we want to just get our point across. We're not necessarily trying to understand. That comes through maturity. The same thing happens with this idea of being in a relationship and making somebody happy versus adding to their happiness, right? We have to start in a place that's centered where we're making ourselves happy before we then attract that star shape that fits in that puzzle, like Rana said, right? Far too many times, and I know this as a man, I can't speak for women, but earlier in our dating experiences, we just chasing what looked good, right? And we can't see the shape that fits best with us because we're looking at the outer shape, right? So it's a process that has to happen. What is it? Trial and error, right? There's a certain process that happens. So when Daryl, when you were talking about time, Lamar, you guys brought up time. That's the evolution of maturity, and when we go through this process. So I don't want people to misconstrue that, oh, this is just something you should know right off the bat, because there's a lot of adults who are still struggling. And I know one of the things that I say is that most adults are just grown kids. Like we just got older. We didn't necessarily get more mature, right? And it's only through going through these trials that you learn, oh, you know what? I need to slow down, because no matter how good Shorty look, you know what I mean? Her credit score is like a 400, and I can't do nothing with that. Max, good.
I can't sometimes with y'all. I swear.
You gotta know what you're looking for, right?
This is why I love these panels. I swear. I wanted to go back to what
400 though.
I know
You can't eat. Max was talking about a meal, right? You can't. You eating ramen on a 400 credit. You got. Come on, Rana. I know. Come on, Rana. I know you know with that realtor. Come on.
I make no judgments. We all start somewhere, right?
We all start. That's my point. We all start somewhere. Just
No,
talk.
but I mean, I completely agree with what you said, and I just want to add a little bit more to what Daryl said. Um, I think we need to stop looking at the superficial stuff. And I think people don't even realize what they're looking at as superficial. Like, yeah, I want somebody that's successful or, ambitious and all that. But it's like, okay, I also need to look at how do you communicate? Are you gonna like, block me when I say something you don't like? Or like these are important things too. And I feel like those sorts of things are not being stressed enough. Like Shanita said, your happiness, is your partner coming to you whole, or are they coming to you with a void waiting for you to fill that void? Because that's never going to happen. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm at a point, my partner could do anything and I'll be fine, and if it's something I don't like, then yeah, I'm going to, deal with it accordingly, but it's not going to break my who I am. It's not going to make me feel like I don't know who I am as a person. And I think that that's important. And I feel like more people should be looking for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I also think too, a lot of times, like if you're in a relationship, let's say hypothetically, if you're in a relationship and that person cheats or whatever, it's not you. It's not you. And I think
No.
a lot of times people blame themselves, like, oh, I'm not pretty enough, or I'm not doing this. No, it's not you. So I think that needs to be definitely known. Like, no, that's something within that person that makes them be that person. You know what I mean?
Right.
So let me go back to my question, which Lamar kind of brought up, and this is a question I was going to ask. Now it's talking about personal experiences, and it's how have they shaped the way you deal with your relationships? Whether it's the relationship that you see your mom and dad having, your girlfriends having, your sisters. How has personal experiences help you shaped the way you look at and go into relationships? You want to go, Lamar? You gonna
Oh
take
yeah,
it?
absolutely. Yeah. Um, to answer that question, definitely, I seen my parents. They were married for 53 years, and unfortunately, my mom passed away a couple years of COVID. But I seen the dynamic, and even though people will hear that and be like, "Wow, 50 plus years," but I saw two people just existing in a marriage, and I have to admit to myself that's affected me because I've seen that and I'm like, listen, that ain't what it's supposed to be. From my perspective, it just wasn't. My father was out of line on a lot of things, and I spoke to my mom about what was going on because her and I were very close, and so from that perspective, it did put a like I don't know like if this is how marriage is going to be, then I don't want to be a part of that. And I've seen other people on the block where I grew up with, from uptown from West Atlanta. I seen other couples that look like, again, it's all about what it looks like to you. People are known to put on a perception when it comes to certain things. So when I was making that point up earlier, I couldn't name like 5 couples. And even in my life now, I mean, I know my brother and my sister are having a fantastic marriage. But even they get real with me and tell me, some things that they deal with each other, but it's the way that they handle it because they've been married for over 20 years. So, what you see does affect a lot of your environment, what you see. And I've always been the type of person where even when it comes to dealing with women, I'm like, I don't want to hurt them, because I saw the hurt on my mom's face. So it might be a situation where I might even fade back and be like, oh, you know what? I might hurt you, you know what I mean? Or I might do this and I might do that. And that all of that is just, part of my healing process as a man and as a person. But I'll admit, like that, seeing that, like I saw they love each other, but they fell out of love a long time ago. From my perspective, it's two different things when it comes to being in love and follow and loving somebody. You can tolerate somebody, you can be with them, no doubt that they love each other, but it was just something that was just a lot of issues, a lot of mental abuse, a lot of just disrespect, a lot of what I mean. I'm the man. I do this, and I just saw that, and that wasn't cool. So, yeah.
Yeah, one of
You
the
know,
things that go ahead, Daryl.
I don't want to cut you off, E. I'm good.
No, I just wanted to add on to what Lamar. First of all, Lamar, thank you for sharing all of that. Right. Again, condolences for the loss of your mother, but also appreciate you being transparent and sharing that, because I think most of us in our community, if we really stop and think about it, most of us don't have examples of really healthy relationships, which is why we keep repeating unhealthy relationships, right? And I think one of the most important things, Shanita said it earlier, like being true with yourself also involves acknowledging when it's not a good fit with somebody, right? Whether you are unhealthy or that person hasn't reached a level where they fit that puzzle. I see, look, it feel like I'm in church because the head is shaking, right? But that's right. Daryl, go ahead. What did you want to add to that?
All right, so I wanted to add, that's a hard conversation for me to have, Lamar. But I had to deal with it becoming a life coach. It kind of forces you to deal with the things that really bother you, right? And one of the things that bothers me so much is my mom spent a really large majority of her life looking for love, a really large part of her life looking for that particular partner. So a lot of the things that you guys hear me say and ask, like questions you hear me ask, is because I've seen that journey, right? And I know what that journey has done for me as a man. I know what I don't, or I know how I don't want to treat a female, if that makes sense, right? I know that I want to treat a female, no matter if I'm in a relationship with you or not. I have to treat you with the utmost respect because my mother wasn't always treated with that same respect. The relationships she got into, they were based on just absolute lust. And from the men's perspective, and this is me as a little guy looking at how my mother was treated by these guys, I'm like, okay, that's wrong. I know not to do that because I see my mother's face. I see what she does when she goes right before she goes to sleep at night, her door, and she start tearing up. I know what that looks like. So when I'm asking you ladies that question, I'm coming from a more detailed point of view because it's easy to say, you can create your own happiness, but that other partner has a lot to do with your
Mhm.
emotions, because if you're in love with somebody, then that person does have a something to do with how you go to sleep at night, or how you the timetable in which you can heal. So although we can say, we can't make anybody happy, that may be true from an individual standpoint, but we all felt love before. We all felt that ache in our stomach before when that person said they were going to leave, or that heartache when that person said they didn't even want to be with you when you actually wanted to fix things and move forward. So I just wanted to say that.
Can I chime in on that? Thanks, Daryl, for sharing that. I will say this. And even commenting on Shanina and Rana, you have to love yourself first. A lot of women get in dysfunctional relationship after dysfunctional relationship, searching for love because they don't know how to love themselves. When you love yourself, you will not do it. Now, I'm not going to say you might not get involved with somebody just to get involved with them, because even I love myself, but I done dealt with people just because of I just dealt with them.
You give it
But
a
when
chance.
I realized that it was not helping me on my journey, I had to go. And that's because I love myself and I was not going to settle for less than I give myself. So at the end of the day, going back to what they said, you have when you love you, you, that person that comes into your life, no one's perfect, but they will have majority of what you give yourself. If you don't give yourself anything, what do you expect from that other person to give you, because you don't even have a
Mhm.
basis? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Mhm.
can I also
It
want to add.
does.
I want to add to this
Real quick,
too.
E.
Go ahead,
I'm
Daryl, because
sorry. Can I say
I
something
think
real
you might
quick?
touch on the same thing. But go ahead.
All right. No, no. I was just going to say what's great about where we are in society today is there are women like you who speaks out about things like this, because I think long ago there was not a lot of examples of a strong, I think we all view strong women the same, in a kind of similar mindset. But I think nowadays there's women like you speaking out about happiness, right? And there's a lot of there's communication circles for you guys, right? Where back in the day, there weren't those things. People had to deal with their own emotions the way they felt was best. And so I just wanted to say that. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you no need to apologize because you did. You touched on what I wanted to share. And again, thank you for being transparent because most of the time as adults, a lot of the circumstances that we find ourselves in are out of our control. And if you really think about it, I mean from the parents that raise us to the communities that we live in to the people that we have to interact. I have been in a circumstance most of my adult life with many of my relationships have been with women who have been previously sexually or physically or emotionally abused. And when I find this information out, it's mind-boggling as a man to understand the sheer numbers of people who have been harmed in
Yes.
our community by people that supposedly love them. So then when they grow up to form relationships, right? The relationships are often trying to mend the broken part of them from the childhood, but they don't know how to be by themselves to fix themselves or to find that therapy to get to that point. So I say all of that to say I want to be mindful when we have these conversations that yes, our aspiration for this conversation is to bring love and light and healing to actually answer like some to provide solutions, but we also have to acknowledge the people that are still stuck and harmed and not able to make that leap and just let them know that it is possible, right?
Hmm.
To let them know that it is possible to make that transition. I don't know, Shanita, you want to jump in or you trying to?
Yeah,
I
I
know
wanted
you.
to say it's not just women, it's
Exactly.
also men.
Yes.
Men, sometimes struggle with different things too, and especially with their moms. Like I know a couple of people, if their moms didn't raise them, if they felt like, they were sent off to live with their dads, then they grow up at times, sometimes having issues with
With
their
women.
mom, or if they see that their mom was abused, and felt incapable of helping her, fight these men, or be able to do something, defend, you know their mom, they have issues, so it's not just
Yeah.
women. I
Hmm.
think it's both of us,
No, thank you.
coming into a situation dealing with struggles,
Yes, thank you,
childhood.
Yes.
thank you. And I
And,
also want to be.
and
I know, Rana, I want to get you to get it fluid, but I also want to recognize the fact that
sure.
what we're talking about is a cycle, right? We're talking about generational cycles of trauma because if, in my example, I gave the example because I'm heterosexual, dating women, I'm seeing what's happening with women, but I also know that those women raised little boys, and those little boys saw that trauma, and then those little boys became adults, and then those little boys perpetuate a cycle of trauma or experience a cycle of trauma where sometimes the healing doesn't always happen. So I wanted to acknowledge that. But Rana, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch upon, kind of what everybody is saying, and just kind of like a reminder. I mean, we're living in such a, a time where we're allowed to talk about our healing right now.
Mm,
And our parents and generations before us did not have that. It was, this is your life, this is what happened to you, move on, get married to make sure that you have stability, or get this relationship to make sure you have some sort of stability. But now we're living in an age where it's like, okay, I'm stable on my own. Now I can look for something healthy, whereas that wasn't always the case. And I think that's really important to mention because, even thinking back on my mom and her relationship, which, I don't would never disrespect my parents' marriage. There, I don't have anything bad to say, but her thoughts going into a marriage is different than my thoughts going into a marriage. And
yes.
I was able to make those choices. I have children, and I chose not to marry, and that was my choice. Whereas it felt like that was like the logical thing to do. But due to, some toxicity within the relationships and things, but I was able to make that choice. I had something to stand on. It wasn't, back in the day where if I didn't have a husband, I was going to be homeless. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the fact that, now we can talk about these things and coming from a more healthy standpoint. So a lot of us probably didn't see good examples of what we wanted in marriages and in relationships, because that's not what marriages and relationships were built on in generations prior to us. But I'm glad to see that we're, at the point where we're healing. And like Eric said, even if you haven't been able to get to that space to heal, at least the space is there. Whereas previously, I feel like, my parents' generation, it's like therapy, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
whatever happened, you deal with it. You deal with it in your head, and however, trauma responses come out, and wherever you lash out, like other people just have to deal with that too. Where it's like now we were like, okay, we want to heal, we want everybody around us healed, because we don't want to bring that on to the next generation.
I want to say, like, yeah, the past generation, we know they didn't have as much as we have now. But I really want to say this is that it's never too late. You can break that generational curse. This is why we are having these conversations, and it's not just a talk amongst ourselves, but it's to let to see that you can heal and stop it with you. Because I know it stopped with my family. That's because I was like, I'm not doing that here, right?
Mhm.
But I can go on and on about things that have happened to me as a child, not having a voice, being molested within the family. We've all gone through it, but look at where I am. So that's why it's so important to have panel discussions like this to say you can change and stop that generational curse. You know what I mean? You have Woman of Valor 74. We do life coaching for women to help you through that healing process, to help you take those next steps. I do life coaching because I've been through it and I know how to get you there. So don't think that you cannot stop that generational curse, because you can, and we have to, because honestly right now there's too much going on out here for us not to heal each other, not to love each other, not to help each
Mhm.
other. I just had to get that out. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just wanted to.
Yeah, can I add on
Oh,
something real quick?
yeah, yeah.
Because
Go ahead, Lamar.
yeah, I just wanted to say that so that's so in saying that, like, the reason why we had this panel discussion, and Eric alluded to it and you alluded to it too, Max, is that so it's about healing, it's finding some solutions, right? So we want people who hearing this, and even amongst ourselves, to understand that there's solutions to it. But it should be a different questions that should be asked now when you're dating, or even if you're involved, right? It should be one of the questions should be, yo, how do you heal? What's your healing process? What do that look like? And they look at you like, what?
Mhm.
Healing? What you mean? Like I got a scar on my arm or something? Like, if they talking about that, then and if they, I'm cool, I'm good. If a man give you that explanation, I'm cool, I'm good, then no, he putting on a fake armor right there. That's not gonna work in the back. You know what I mean? When it comes in the situation, in a quote relationship situation. So you gotta ask the women the same thing. Listen, what's going on? Like, how you healing? Like, tell me what's going on. Like, let me dive and dig deeper. And Eric, you alluded to it too. I was surprised at how many like women I've dated and women that are like my friends and hunger who've been molested, I didn't know. You know what I mean? And a lot of times I might be like the first or the second person that they telling. You know what I mean? Because they get that comfortability with me, and it's like, and I'm like, man, this is rampant in our community, and it's something that's not taught about. It's a don't tell. You know what I mean? It happens, don't tell. If this happens, and then you gonna get hurt or this and that. So it's a lot of fear behind that, and and so that creates more and more fear, and that creates more distrust. So when you come and you meet somebody thorough in the future, and now you don't know how to trust men from the beginning, or vice versa. A man don't know how to trust a woman because his mom hurt him when mom wasn't around, and mom was the crap. Well, you see women do this and do that, then that creates this whole mindset of like, yo, you know what, this is how you treat them. This is how you know what I'm saying, this is how it is. We heard it all in our music and our culture. Like I said,
Mhm.
the men are looked at, the more we have. You know what I'm saying? The more women we have, we thorough, we pimps, we got this one, we got that one. You know what I mean? And nobody really talks about how beautiful a marriage can be. And we don't blow that up. It's like married with
Mhm.
children, like it's boring. Like you got, you know what I mean, Peggy Bundy, you living with Peggy Bundy, and you know what I'm saying? You're with that reality. You feel me? You like, what? That's how it Nah, I'm cool. I don't want that. So it's just a lot of things that's perpetuate even in media. You have to really do things. So that's why I'm saying, even how the Bible says, like, what I mean, we in this world, but we not of this world. You got to really focus and transition what's really going and transform your mind and understand that what you see, a lot of what we seeing is illusion. You know what I mean? So social media is an illusion to a lot of things. You know what I'm saying? To everything and a lot of things that's going on, and we perpetuating this fakeness and like everything is perfect. I look at people. Who I may not know. I'm like, let me consider following this person. On social media, and I look at and if you don't have a bad day, like I don't see one or two things that nothing in your life happening bad. Like you always partying, you always doing this, like you are nothing. Your dog ain't die. You know what I mean? The cat ain't run away. You know what I mean? Like you know what I'm saying? Somebody ain't. I'm not saying you gotta share all that, but that's part of what it is. Like if you real, I want to know the realness of you, not just that. You know what I mean? Did you take a loss? You know what I mean? Did you lose something? Because that's how like I feel it is. Like just be transparent, be vulnerable. But not a lot of people they don't find strength in vulnerability. We spoke about it before. You know what I mean? Like I said, you could either a victim in your vulnerability or you can be victorious in your vulnerability.
Yeah.
You
Lamar,
know?
thank you for that. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Daryl, did you have something you wanted to add before I go to the question for the ladies?
Yeah, I do. And becoming a life coach, I noticed and I found, people don't even make it through the program because you got to deal with your stuff first in order to start the healing process. And when you start helping people walk through that process, even in the beginning, it's hard for them to remember or even want to communicate those hard times. Like it's hard for them to revisit that particular point in time. And we talked about communication earlier, and I think that's a big part of communication. Is like, have you healed from some of that stuff? And if you don't know how to heal, can you communicate that in a way that will allow for me to move forward? And most people, the answer is no. Like it's a simple no, straightforward no, because we're not allowing ourselves to stop and deal with the molestation or stop and deal with the cheating or stop and deal with the rape. We're not allowing ourselves to deal with that, and we want to go towards what feels good because it feels good in that moment. You know what I mean? And we gravitate towards feel good rather than dealing with what hurts. And where hurts, honestly, it's tough, but you got to find a way to deal with that before you start moving forward.
Thank you for that.
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
And it kind of like pertains to earlier a little bit. But I think that most of us we pick people who are just like our parents, or a lot like our parents. And so I think that's something to talk about as well. They might not have everything, but it's something about that person that might remind you about your father or your mom, and that's why you chose to deal with them.
Yeah.
And then it's a whole bunch of other things that lie in between where at times it's like, okay, maybe I feel like I can help this person, or I feel like I can fix this person because I saw something within my parents' relationship that that I didn't like or felt like I could handle. So maybe I can deal with this person and help this person along their journey. And it's just not the case, and until we heal ourselves, that's when we can find somebody who I think is best suited for us.
Yeah. Well, let me jump in because that relates directly to my next question. So to just put an exclamation on the point that you made, first of all, as human beings, we're social animals, right? And so oftentimes it is true that we choose mates who remind us of our parents, but it's usually in one of two categories, right? We either pick people who are a lot like our parents when we loved our parents and the parents was working, or we choose people who are the exact opposite from our parents because we knew our parents was raggedy in some kind of way, right? You're either an example of what to do or an example of what not to do. And when we reflect back on our childhood and our upbringing, those are the two options. It's either going to be like mom and dad or not be like mom and dad, or mom or dad, right? But my question to the ladies here, and I'm not sure who has children. I know some have, but even if it doesn't, this is also going to something that the guys can jump into. But when we talk about ending generational trauma, at what point in time do you talk to your children about relationships? And or at what point in time do you introduce your partner or somebody that you're dating to your children? And how does that affect their perspective? Now, who wants to jump in? At what point in time do you bring your kids and your dating prospects together? I didn't
Um,
see that coming.
I'll start. So I am a mom of two, so I, can kind of speak from personal experience, and I've been single, a lot of their life. So it really all depends. I think I need to have a good grasp of who this person. Well, let me stop here. Let me just say, like, I'm from the thinking of I don't want to introduce everybody to my children, but if I do think that there's going to be a future, I'd rather do it sooner rather than later because
Mm,
I do believe that, I do give my children not total say so in my life, of course, but if there's a problem, I'm not gonna have my children in a household where they're uncomfortable. I will absolutely not do that. So if I meet somebody and I feel like it's going well, then I may bring them around casually in passing to kind of see how they interact and then maybe do it a little bit more. Um, because I need to know that before we go into the future. But that being said, I mean, there have really been less than a handful of people that they have met. Um, and then to kind of speak on what you're saying about how do I bring up relationships with them? I've always been the kind of mom where I bring things up in the moment. So if I feel like something is brought up or a topic is brought up on TV or in passing, I will speak to them about it. It's not something where I sit down and like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to talk to them about sex or whatever. Like if the topic is brought up and, my son just turned 17, he does have his first girlfriend. So we do speak about certain things when they come up. But I don't really lecture or talk about everything. But if there is something that comes up or something that I like or dislike, I'm going to bring it up to kind of get him to hear what I have to say and hopefully it resonates. I do know that, like me, um, he's a person and he's going to have to make his own mistakes and make his own decisions. So I don't try to preach or like my way or no way. I don't think that that's like a natural way for people to learn, but I do try to definitely be there to mitigate certain things or explain certain things so that he doesn't put himself or go down a hole that he can't come out of.
mhm, mhm. So everyday examples, just regular conversation.
I try my best. I mean, we all fail. I'm human. I'm sure there are some things that he may look back on and say, I didn't like that my mom did this, but I do
Mhm.
um, try to do my best, and I do try to put thought into the things that I do on a day-to-day basis.
Good. Anyone else?
Yeah, I wanted to chime
Yeah.
in. So I will say I'm the mom of three amazing children. One, God rest his soul. I have two sons. One is going on 28. The other one, well, he would have been 23. God rest his soul. But I will say with my boys, I raised them to be men. A lot of women coddle their sons. A lot of women don't show them things. And then we have a bunch of men out here or guys out here that don't even know how to be men. I made sure I taught my boys how to open up doors. My youngest son, I would walk so fast and he would say, Mom, can you slow down so I can get the door? I would slow down so he can get the door. When I tell you, my oldest son, his girlfriend, she loves him to death. He pays most of the bills. He's like, Mom, because that's what a man's supposed to do. And also, because they love me, always pay attention to the relationship they have with their mother because it's going to show you how they're going to treat you. If they don't have a relationship with their mom, if they don't love their mom, watch out because your relationship is not going to be good. So I taught them how to be men. I taught them how to wash clothes, all of that stuff. Because when I am gone, I needed to make sure they are self-sufficient. But now my oldest son, his girlfriend, she's loving the fruits of my labor.
That's cute.
And she loves me for it. And my daughter, who is 12 going on 13, she let me tell very smart. I don't have to tell her if I'm talking to someone, but she will notice if her mom has been on the phone and I'm laughing and giddy a lot. And then she'll start saying, like, Mom, who that? Or she'll start with my phone ring. She'll go get my phone for me because she's like, all right, who am my mom talking to that, has her laughing? And then we get into a conversation of, okay, well, yes, I did meet somebody and, we're just talking. I don't bring them into her life until I kind of see where we're going. Just like Rana mentioned earlier, because you don't want to just be like, bam, here's my man. So when you know where the relationship is going, you want to introduce them to see how it works. Now, I don't always get it right. I don't always get it right. I've been out of relationship for years. Then I'll meet someone, everything's going, I bring them in, and then we wind up ending up breaking up because of certain things. But what I will say I do is I sit down with my daughter and we have a conversation about it. And I let her know what was happening, what happened, because I need her to know that sometimes things don't work out and it's okay. It's okay. So I think just having real conversations with your children about relationships, because they are very smart, much smarter than we give them credit for, and they pay it, they don't miss nothing. They're not like we were when we were younger. And for my
Yourself.
ladies out there, yeah. And for my ladies out there, raise your son to be the man that you want. Raise them to be the man that you want.
Hmm.
Because I won't lie, I'm like, yo, I need a man like my son. The way really.
I think that's a whole nother series that we need to get into, right?
Yes.
Because when you
Parenthood
said
series.
I'm gonna raise him to be a man, right? How do you define manhood, right? And it's
Mhm.
that opens up a whole nother can of worms, right? And I think
Yeah,
we
we
can
can
dig
talk
into.
about that. That's our next conversation, panel discussion.
That's
Let's
our
do
next
it.
conversation. But I also want to, Shanita, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I don't have children, but
Mhm.
that I've birthed. But I do have children that I've raised and helped, raise.
Mhm.
And I will say that I talk, to children, those children, my nieces and nephews, all the time. I bring up different issues and topics, especially if there's something toxic going on within the family.
Mhm.
And, so I will definitely sit them down and have conversations with them. As far as like bringing them around, like, man, I would have to agree with both of the ladies that spoke before me, and say that, if you don't think the situation is going anywhere, why introduce them to your children, and like Max was saying all the time, it may not a person may not get it right, and so they know the reality of a situation, that things happen, and things don't work out, so it goes back to that reason and to a season thing. um Another thing I wanted to say about what Max was saying is that so many people think that women can't raise men. So many people think that women cannot raise men, and I absolutely agree that we can. And you know, I absolutely, I have a nephew. He's 17 years old. I love this boy to death. And like Max was saying about opening the doors, I told him how to open the doors. I talked to him on a regular about, situations with women and how to treat a woman. Now he has other influences, but as his aunt and as somebody who was really in his life and that took care of him, treated him like he was her own, I
Mhm.
think that I have that influence, over him as well. So
Good, good. Fellas, come on, don't act like y'all sitting back there like you haven't either raised your own kids. So just for transparency's sake, I was a single father of my oldest son for a very long time. So I navigated that relationship dynamic just like I navigate a typical relationship where not typical, but something that oftentimes we as black men experience if we were dating someone who already has kids, right? So I know that's something that you come across. Rana, one of the things I wanted to share with you before I get the fellas to chime in was my oldest son and I had a conversation recently where I was completely flabbergasted by the stuff that he remembered, the individuals, the people I had dated, all of those things that he remembered over the course of his lifetime. And we didn't talk until he was in his 20s. And I'm like, you remember that? Like you would know that was not even, but he really picked up on everything. And the things that I thought that he was paying attention to, he wasn't even worried about.
Right.
He was
They don't miss a beat. I'm telling you, they do
We'll
not.
do that on the parenthood panel, but like kids really are like that way. We try so hard, like I'm gonna make sure that they see this, 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 and it's really the little things that
Right.
they remember, and
Yeah, yeah.
So let me go.
that's
For the
it.
sake of time, I want to get this question over to the guys. All right, y'all ready? So why is it hard for some men to be open and honest about whether or not they're looking for a relationship or not? And we could talk about present moments or past moments, because a lot of, friends of mine, you meet guys and they are playing, but not being clear per se. And my thing, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be 1,000. I always say, just be honest, because I'm gonna just be 100. Lamar laughing because he know how I'm about to go. We're gonna get you the draws anyway. So just be honest. And that's what we want to do. That's what we want to do. So I just want to know, like, why is it so hard? Like, why is it so hard for men just to say, hey, I like you, but I'm not looking for a relationship, but we can hang out? Like, why is that hard? I'm just curious.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna jump in real quick. And I know you told me I'm supposed to be co-host and I'm supposed to be quiet, but I need to say this because as young men, first of all, let's take it back to the beginning of this. We're all grown, mature people.
Yes.
But our dating interests start way back, preteen sometimes, right? When you're that young and that vulnerable and that scared and that nervous or whatever, and you start approaching young ladies, you know what it feels like to be rejected when you are straightforward. So it's a lot of young men, a lot of older men haven't gotten over that process of rejection when they are straightforward and honest. So they feel like they have to be more, they have to put on an air, they have to kind of put like a carrot out there, right? A different type of bait. Because oftentimes when you are straightforward, it's like, I'm not interested in you. Oh, you think I'm easy? What do you think it's hard to do that. You can't really start doing that until you like post 25, 30 years old when everybody's secure and like, okay, I need something. So I just want to put that out there. But who else wants to jump in?
Okay, I'm sorry.
But can I just ask a question? I know it's the guy's turn, but just to piggyback on that, but I just feel like men, like it's one bad experience and then it just like, I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong, but that just directs the way your whole life goes. So you have one rejection, and then everybody for the next 40 years has to suffer because of it. And it's just like, as women, we go through heartbreak all the time, and we try to. And I know me, like wash it clean, go into the next.
Daryl, I'm gonna tag you in. You jump in there because first of all, something that Daryl mentioned earlier, right? First of all, Rana, I love the fact that you brought this up because yes, you're very, very accurate on point in terms of that being true. And you also can't compare women to men because we already talked about how women have this kind of support system built in, how you can talk to one another about anything, how you can open up. Men, you come on. When a dude is rejected, how do other dudes treat you? Come on, Lamar.
Right.
I mean, you're right. You're right. That is a point that I didn't think about, and I pray for the healing for the men, honestly. And like I said, I have a son, and I encourage him to be open and speak. And I know that that's not really what everybody had growing up, and I know we're in a new time. But I just hope, for the sake of the male species, you know what I mean.
Pray for
Let's
us.
get let's get some healing because you don't have
Which one?
to
But look
carry
at this.
Well,
around
listen, wait a
40
minute. Wait.
years
We
of
ain't heard from
baggage.
Yeah.
you. Haven't heard from the men yet to answer your questions.
Well,
Listen.
listen, let me, I'm gonna zip it.
There you go. Are you listening? Because the men are trying to talk. Are you
Yeah.
listening?
Okay, all right, all
Yeah.
right.
Men do talk. Men
Listen.
do talk. Come on,
We
Daryl.
do. We do talk. We do talk. Can y'all
Go
hear
ahead,
me?
gentlemen.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think
All right.
Daryl
Cool. Cool.
went to Daryl
All right.
was Daryl going next? Was you
It's
next,
up to
Daryl?
y'all. Who wants to go?
All right.
Yeah,
I just.
I've been waiting
Go
for a
ahead, Jay.
while, so I
Mhm.
can still
Yeah.
wait. Go ahead, Lamar.
No, I was just gonna say no. That's an excellent point. We get rejected way more than y'all. What? I'm from a city called Philadelphia. You understand me? I joke. I used to joke with the homies when I went to school in New York, Connecticut, other places. I used to joke, and I used to be like, "Yo, in my city, I gotta come with a bulletproof vest." Like, yo, we get rejected all the time, and I'm telling you, it's like it's like combat. Like, yo,
But
But
what's
that's
we
happening?
get
it.
And
rejected in
listen,
the relationships,
yeah, but
though.
hold
Well,
on up. But hold on up. Listen,
Mm.
let's get to that point though. Hear me out though. Hear me out though. I feel what you're saying, but that we do too. That sometimes. So that's true too. So when it comes to the point when we out here, yo, we out here trying to, and I'm talking about the approach, right? I told everything from an approach, like, excuse me, I'm not calling you a shorty, right? Even in my 20s, I never was like, yo, you this, or you got a big ass, I want to talk to you. I want to, y'all, a lot of the women at that time was listening to that more than me saying, excuse me, look, I like your style. Listen, I love your smile. I want to get you, can I get to know you? Huh? What? Or just walk past me like I'm Ghost, like I'm a character from Power. You know what I'm saying? Like yo, what's up? I'm like, yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like I don't understand that. So we get rejected a lot. It take a lot. And that's why sometimes even when we get to a certain point, like, damn it, she walk right past us and we want to say something. But then that comes and y'all know we looking, y'all side eyeing, we side eyeing, right? And you and like, damn, I want to say something, but I still got that trauma from the past. You know what I mean? Because she remind me of this chick I tried to holler at on South Street, or when I was down on Kelly Drive, or whatever I was at. You know what I mean? I found it easier to speak to women from other cities. New York, you think New York would be crazy? New York, show me love. Yeah, what up? Da, da, da. New Jersey, Florida, this don't matter what. I'm telling you, it's a different mindset when always say here in this city that I've experienced. It's not all. I'm not generalizing because it's not all. I met some phenomenal women. You ladies are phenomenal. I'm just saying, like, but when it comes to that, we will face a lot of rejection as well. So that's, please, we could talk about that another day because that's a myth. Like we get hurt too, and that hurts us too. And what happens when we with the homies? Right, like Eric said, like, oh, you got played, you going, you know what I mean? Like we got to deal with all that, you know what I'm saying? So that's why if you come off of somebody who be like, and you diss him, they be like, well, F you, B, because he hurt. You just hurt him. Right. And again, it's that communication. We don't know. That's not right. It's just the communication and analysis of the situation that's going on. Right. Instead of saying, nah, no, thank you. No, that's cool. I'm fine. Thank you, though. And then y'all still have it. And I understand, too, because I've heard it from another side, because I even asked women about, like, why y'all like, because the dude keep following me. He going in, you know what I mean? So I get it too. Like, I had to analyze it, like, why y'all like that? When I'm like, I'm the boy. Oh, you like the 30th boy that tried to holler at me when I'm coming down South Street. I didn't know that. So now I know that, and then so it becomes a whole situation of understanding the situation and how it is. So yes, we do get we do get rejected in a lot of ways as well. So please keep that in mind and yes, we do hurt, and that does make us feel some type of way. But you say no, thank you, cool. I mean, so a woman coming like, no, thank you, I'm fine, I'm cool. You know what I mean? So it is.
Can I just want to piggyback real quick, please, just real quick. I'm sorry.
All right, you and then Daryl. Wait a minute. No, you know what?
I
No,
know.
no.
Wait, because I got to piggyback off what he said. Real quick, 2 seconds.
But no, you got guests. You're going to act like a good host and let your guests.
I know, but just 2 seconds. That's all I want. I promise.
Daryl,
2 minutes.
can she get 2 seconds?
Just 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I promise.
2 seconds.
Because I'm glad he brought up that rejection piece, because I'm not going to lie. A lot of people be like, yo, no guys be trying to holler at you. And I'll be like, no. I'll be like, I can see them looking, and I'm looking at them, but they won't say anything. And I'll be like, I understand the presence that I have. So, I always be like, why won't they just say something? Because I know they want to. And I'm like, I don't feel like I have that energy of, oh, she thinks she did it. And I'll be like, yo, just say hi. and we gonna have a conversation. And I hate, but now that you said the rejection piece, I understand why they are looking, and I'm looking at them, but they still like, and I'm just like, can you say something already?
Mm.
And why the most arrogant, ignorant dudes do the
We'll
most
say
talking,
something.
They get the
right?
most
Because they have an inflated sense of ego that
Right.
they ain't gonna let nobody push them down, and they just gonna holler at everybody. So that
Yes, true.
it's a. I'm telling you, there's a mathematical equation. We can put this on a chart and actually show the ratio between men who have been rejected versus the amount of time. But anyway,
But
Daryl,
thank you for that. I just wanted to put like that makes sense. I'm sorry. All right, D, you up next. Sorry, boo. Come on,
Go
you
ahead.
back.
Hey, it's all good. You know the hard thing about letting y'all talk is y'all say so many dope things that it's hard to keep track of. Like I try to answer one question and another question come up, or I try to comment on one thing and then something is like hard to keep, like hard to keep this thing bottled in. But look, I do want to go back because I think the high school has a lot, or middle school, high school has a lot to do with like what we look for now, if that makes sense. Like I think that time period is where you got the popular kids versus the non-popular kids. You got which seems to be attractive to your friends, and so that should be attractive to you. And you kind of fall into this mindset of what to look for based on like your surroundings. And when I was going to school, we had the drug dealers, right? So the drug dealers, they would come to school with the cars. They had a gold, the chains. You know what I mean? They always had the hottest clothes. Always the Timbs was always fresh. I ain't have a chance versus them dudes because I ain't had what they had. And looking at it now, a lot of where we are now is still that way. You know what I mean? Like if I don't have the big house, or if I don't have that new BMW, if I don't have those rims, you know what I mean, or my car ain't tinted out, then you ain't cutting it. I'm just speaking general tech. I'm not talking about just like where my life is right now because I'm settled. I'm okay. I'm just talking about like generally speaking, the women that we typically are attracted to, they're attracted to so many things that are outside of us. You know what I mean? And so when you talk about rejection, that's part of it. It's like, I got to compete with all these other dudes who seems to have more than what I have. And I got to now put on a facade, or now I got to fake like I got it to get what I want. And, a lot of that comes from that.
Thank you, Daryl, for that, because I think you're talking about a reality that is real, but is also unhealthy. And a lot of times we like to talk about, the theoretical of the way things should be. But oftentimes we are faced with this. And a lot of times what you're describing, um, this idea of trying to compete with other men based on the things that they have because those things are attractive to women. But we already heard earlier the women say that it's not really those things that make you attractive, right? It's just flash that maybe catches your eye, but that don't mean. I used to always talk about when women used to say they wanted somebody tall, dark, and handsome, right? You heard that phrase? I want somebody tall, dark, and handsome. I used to always say, well, that don't mean he not abusive, ugly, like and and
Okay.
crap. You know what I mean? Like he can be tall, dark, and handsome with bad credit,
Oh
ugly feet,
God.
really bad habits,
Yes.
right? So you also we also have to be mindful not to get caught up in the trap of keeping up with the Joneses, because at the same time that you are trying to compete. And I like what you said too, Daryl, just about this idea of teenage and high school stuff. That brings us back to this idea of maturity, right? After a while, you start realizing, what's that quote? I'm not good for scripture, right? But there's a thing when I was a child, my thoughts and thinking ways were that of a child, not of a man. I don't have a need for that anymore. There's a
Right.
process of maturity that we all have to go through. And you start realizing a lot of that stuff needs to, not should, needs to fall away after a certain amount of time so you can get to that next level of like what a real healthy relationship
Yeah.
should be.
Yeah, because piggybacking off that, the honest thing about it is if a woman is attracted to you for material stuff, those things can be taken away. Then what? She's not going to love you anymore. She's not going to want to be with
Right.
you because it was the physical, the tangible stuff
Right.
that got her. So
Mhm.
I don't want it, and I even know I like Eric said, the car might be like, oh, he got a nice car, but for real, I'm seeing where your core values are.
Mhm.
Because you can get that joint taken away the next month, repo it or something, or you might
Right.
be paying so much of a note that we can't even go out because your note like $1,000 with insurance. You know what I'm saying? So, like, those tangible things, women that are attracted to those things, I feel like, and that is the basis of their attraction, stay away from them.
I
Stay
was
away.
gonna say that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that. I was just waiting, like to say that.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's
I want to.
hard though.
I want to.
No, it's not.
I,
You
Well,
guys talked
Absolutely.
oh,
about.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead. You got.
I was just gonna say you guys talked about that earlier about, the maturity piece on, okay, we're looking at the physical at first. And then as you get older, then you look at more values about, who the person
mhm.
is and what they can offer or what they can bring to the table. So, I was just going to present this to everybody who has children on here too. Is that something that we should be instilling in our children young?
Mhm.
You know,
It's good.
because I think that would help even with the rejection piece. Because I was one of those cursed out girls. I got cursed out a lot
Mhm.
because and it just was because I just wasn't interested in nothing at that particular time in my life. It was just all about school and whatever else I
Mhm.
had going on. So
Mhm.
I got cursed out a whole lot by people, by men. And, I'm like, wow, was it really that deep? So where is it with us that we teach our children that, you never know about why the person is, not, and then it's that whole thing too. The rejection is God's protection, sort of piece. So it's like find
Mhm.
that person, that is going to that accepts you,
Mhm.
like I don't know how to say it, but I don't
You,
want to
If
say
it
it
but
like
what
don't,
that.
if
he,
it
No, I
don't
think you
fit,
did. I
don't
think you
force
did a
it.
good
That's
job.
Right,
I
right,
think you did a good
right,
job. Yeah. Now, I do
right.
want to say this. It's a reason why I'm so silly. I'm so loud. I'm so out front with my, who I am, because I hid, for a long time in my life. I hid from those
Mhm.
emotions, and hiding, you truly go through something that I don't think anybody want to go through. It's like a darkness. It's like a dark cloud just hangs over your head because you feel like you can't truly be yourself. And
Mhm.
now, I honestly feel like no matter what the relationship is, no matter if it's a job that I'm going for, or if I'm in an interview about my business or my organization, or even if I'm talking to my lady or my kids, I'm always going to be silly Daryl because that's genuinely who I am to my core. And what I also noticed about that though is people see the genuineness in you and they respect you as such. So if you
Mhm.
are being yourself, you will be respected, as you should be treated. I'm gonna tell you this. My daughter dealt with depression. She went through a really hard point with depression. And I remember going through that 8 years earlier. I went through the same exact thing. And I looked at myself because you guys were talking about children. So I'm bringing this and I'm gonna let you guys go. But you brought up the fact about talking to our children, but I think talking to our children is one thing, but listening to our children is something totally different. And most times we want to talk to our children and we want to talk about the things that we feel like they should believe, or the things that we want them to do when they get older, instead of listening. And we don't understand that that holds a lot of weight. And to our children, if we're not listening to them, they feel like because they love us so much, they can't talk to anybody. And that affects them in such a way where it really starts to bring them down. And when I found that out and when I realized that, I wanted to make sure that I was all ears first, because as you guys know, I can talk a lot, but I wanted to make sure that I was all ears first. And then I can give my point of view, because I don't want to just talk as a father and say, you need to listen to me because it's not about me, it's their life too.
You
So
just
thank you,
dropped.
Daryl. Yeah, thanks for sharing it. I think we need to. That's a whole nother panel talking about children and all of that, but bringing that back, like just like you said, listening first and then to respond. Like, I think that's great. And even in relationships, we have to listen first, to listen and not listen to respond per se, right? So, Eric, you up? You got one more. Dwindling down to time. So, I do have one more question for the men. Do you have another question for the women?
You sure it's my turn? You sure it's my turn?
Yeah, because I just asked the men and their
I asked
relationship.
the question about the parents bringing children in when you relationship.
Oh, well,
That was the last.
listen, I ain't scared. I'll take it. Y'all ready for this
Oh, you call
question?
me scared? You call me scared?
My question, nitty gritty, sex. Woo! How important is it in a relationship? And how often in a relationship is it expected? Men and women, please answer that, because as we know, when you get married, people tend, or they say a lot of women cut it off, or you know, it's already finished.
They like,
But
let me
also,
go.
I think we need to really talk about that because that's an important piece.
Look, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start.
Go ahead, start. Go ahead, start.
He ready.
I think it's crucial. I think it's crucial. Like, all right, so there's this speech out there, and I forget the speaker. There's a speech out there who tells the women in the audience, if you go, Dr. Miles Monroe, he has a speech about sex, and he tells the women, your man needs it, and it is true. You know, we have animal instincts, right? And we have to place those, like, if you want your man to be faithful to you, you got to satisfy him, and that's really, to me, that's really what it boils down to. I'm gonna just be honest. I'm gonna put it out there because we hold, like, that's a lot of emotions we hold up. Like, what comes from down there, it builds a lot of stress. It builds a lot of anxiety, and we gotta release that, you know, and we gotta release it with, you know, we would like it to be our partner.
You know, this look, the kid, look, they ladies dropping off the cameras and everything. They like,
I'm the only woman left.
They did just bounce.
I'm still here. I'm still here.
Cussing you
out. The ladies.
They like, hell no.
Right. Really, 81 said, "Woo, LOL."
I wanted to piggyback off of that because I think I answered that in the last session as well. Like, I felt like it's important in a relationship, but I know someone who said the exact same thing that Eric just said, and I'm sorry, Daryl, sorry, that it's pent up frustration, and that's why they cheat, you know, because it's something that they need to get out. I also had to look at the person who was saying, these types of things. I do think that is a reason why some men cheat. I do think that it shouldn't be. I still think that honesty is key, and talking it over with your partner. And I just wanted to say, like, as far as how often, I think it just depends on the people. The last situation I was in, like, that was we were doing it all the time. But it just depends on the relationship. It depends on the person, their sex drive, and on top of it, how you're making that person feel. And I don't think it should be about how many times a person should do it. I just feel like whenever you guys connect on that level, to be able to do it.
Lamar, you want to jump in there? Anybody else before I go on the tangent?
Absolutely.
I'm going in this one too.
It's very important. Very important. But good sex is really important. You can just have sex and you can just be there and you just be, you know what I'm saying? So that's very, very important. And understanding who you're with. And don't necessarily put limits on it. I mean, I dated a nympho before, and
Is she self-professed, or is that your medical opinion?
I will say this. That's an excellent question. It was my opinion because he wanted it all the damn time, literally. You
There
know
you
what I'm
go.
saying? Literally.
Thank you for the
So
clarity.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So thank you. No, you're right. So and what I found is like for me, like I said, everybody's different. But for myself, like I need to miss it. You know what I'm saying? I need because if we just, I don't have to have it every day.
Sound effects now, Lamar.
That wasn't me. I don't know what that was. That wasn't me. But but for me, I don't. It's for me, like you say, when let's be honest, men, when we wake up in the morning, like our gun is loaded. We already ready. You know what I mean? In the morning, it's like boom, like it's there. You know what I mean? The gun is loaded. We ready to rock. But I don't mean necessarily, like I say, for me, like I feel it's important that you had that chemistry and you work that chemistry out with the person you're with. I feel it doesn't have to be every day. Like I said, I'm not here to put days on it, but at 4 or 5 days out of a 7 day week, whatever. You got to have a chance to chill, and you can't do it every day anyway because you know what I'm saying.
Now,
So,
when you're grown and you got a job, you got responsibility.
right, absolutely, but
You got to get up in the morning.
it's flow time for the women. You know
It
what I mean?
don't matter.
So
Let me stop.
red light special. I sound like
We don't wait years away.
red light right now. Oh, you know what I'm saying?
Away.
You know what I'm saying? But I mean, but yeah, so but it obviously is very important. Obviously, all about chemistry between you and that person, and what makes y'all go through and what makes it. Like I said, love making happens way before the bed. If you already mentally making love or getting crushed mentally, that's already a factor and everything. So you can, I mean, you can do it in any way possible that you can. You know, you may not even have to be present, and somebody can get orgasm from your voice or what you do, what you say, whatever. So like when it comes to that,
Yeah.
it's all about the individual. So it's very very important. And I would say consistency is very important. I'm not gonna put amount of days or whatever, but consistency is important because you can have sessions, you can have triple sessions for whatever, and you know what I mean, however whatever flows with your situation. So that's how I'm gonna handle that. Ask that
I,
question.
I just want to say real quick, don't misconstrue what I said. It's very important and we need it, right? That's known. But here's the thing about needing it. We don't need it every day, every minute of the day. There's moments in time where, in my opinion, if you're with somebody for a while, I call it before sex. I mean, before marriage sex and after marriage sex. You know your partner after a certain period of time, right? And if you know your partner, you know when they're yearning. Like I know when my partner's yearning. I know what that attitude, like that I didn't get sex in a while attitude looks like, right? And so I know when to paint that picture. And I think Lamar, you talked about it, is really knowing your partner and knowing what your partner wants without them even having to say it sometimes. You know what I mean? I think that's very important when it comes to sexuality. Like if you care, and ladies, your appearance means everything. I'm sorry, I gotta say that. I'm gonna throw that in there. Your appearance is everything. I want to. Just because I'm with you for a long time, don't mean you have to come to bed every night with a. That's cool sometimes, but come on, we need some candy because look, we turn on the TV, we see candy. We go outside, we see candy. We want our ladies to still have, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Wait, did you really bring up the bonnet though, down? Like for real?
But like, what about what y'all wear? Like, we want some candy too. I can't come with my lingerie and you got rips in your 7-year-old hands. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Treat us
Go ahead,
too
Rhonda.
sometimes,
Go ahead,
okay?
Rhonda. Word up. I love it.
Right.
That's dope.
Right, the elastic can't be shot
Yeah,
around
the
the
elastic's falling off. No.
Needing a
Bleach.
haircut,
No.
woofing,
Yep, she woofing.
face woofing, and like, come on.
Talk to me. That's
Right,
what's up.
can't
Y'all
brush
been-
the TV
Oh
right. You
my
got
God.
kids, you
Does
trying
go
to kiss
both
all
ways.
over.
Listen.
But
Hey,
you know
you
what?
know,
Hey, let me jump in real quick, Lamar, because I laughed at that, and I also cringed a little bit because I think I just being I can honestly say probably the oldest man on here. All right. I understand after a certain period of time, we listen to women and have conversations, right? That we need it. It's a drive thing, only goes but so far, because what happens is we can often abuse that relationship, right? And it can be seen as, oh, you owe me this, right?
Mhm.
And when you're in a relationship with somebody, there's no owed. You can't demand that, right? And when you start doing that, that's absolutely a way to destroy the relationship and or destroy that woman's feelings for you or the strength of that relationship. Sex is a form of communication, right? It should
Mhm.
not be seen just as an athletic event, right? Although some people, I'm not saying you can't have swings and trapeze and all that. I'm saying the first and foremost is a communication. Both of the brothers said it. It starts before you get in the bedroom. She choked it. I don't mean to choke, right? It starts before you get to the bedroom, right? So
Mhm.
because I mean, even Lamar, what you was talking about, how we wake up in the morning ready to go, right? That's biological. We understand that. But in order to have a healthy relationship, come on, man, calm down, bro. You said he got Jodeci playing in them headphones. That's what's going on with you.
Mm-mm.
It starts. It can't just be this biological urge that we need you to be present for us to release, right? It's a form of communication, and we as men, if we just learned that, like, it would so improve the quality of our relationships and the quality of our sex. And we just gotta, that's just another lesson that we've got to. Again, it goes back. I think the theme of the night is maturity, right? You have to at some point in time learn to mature. That I think personally, just as a man, that we have to learn to control all of our impulses. If we are ruled by our biology, then anything goes. Like, we just, I
Mhm.
mean, you could be in the middle of work, you get hungry, what, F this. I'm gonna go grab grub. But
Right.
it ain't your lunchtime yet, right?
That
The
super
same
ego.
thing the same thing applies to all of these situations.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And when it comes
You
to
gotta
a,
be in
a,
control.
a long-term healthy relationship, you have to have that communication, so that then what Daryl was talking about knowing your partner, that then comes from the process of knowing your partner.
Somebody said not Jodeci, LOL.
I'm an old head, you know what I mean? I can't tell you who
Yes,
else.
that was the good music.
Take
But I wanted
my
to
money,
Mm.
You played it,
my
right?
house, and my car.
Yes.
I'm about to hang up. I can't. I can't. I don't know why I cut it out, Lord. Oh
Max
God.
said hang up like we on the phone. We ain't on the phone, Max.
You started singing. You threw me off. Don't do that. You done threw me off with that. But I wanted to piggyback off of what Eric said. Is definitely a form of communication, and for me, it is definitely a form of showing how I care about someone, expressing my love, right? And so if when I'm gonna be honest, when I am in a relationship, how we start, I let know from the get-go how we start the relationship out with the intimacy. I expect that to continue. Don't, especially if we don't see each other that often, and then you're like, no. I think I flip it, because I'm like that man. Like, what do you mean? Like, what and everything is flowing. I'm not understanding or comprehending what that is, right? um and if you love someone, and if this is a form of the way I express my love to you, then we should. Now, if there is a disconnect between us, then no, we shouldn't, because doing that is not going to fix it. And let's be very clear on that. When you have a disconnect, intimacy does not fix things. It fixes things in that moment, but guess what? You're going to be right back at that issue that next day or that next week. So let's be clear on that. Intimacy is a form of connection. Intimacy is a form of communication and a form of love. And so for me, intimacy is very important in my relationship. And when I am in a new relationship and I know that it's going to go there after months, we have that conversation. Because for me, I needs to be clear on it. Like, I don't want no misconceptions later on. So from the get go, you know what I
What is
mean?
hitting for? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think people need to have those conversations and not just assume. I think we have a lot of assumption, especially, again, like I think somebody mentioned about when they first got into a relationship, it was boom, 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 boom. But then let's say 6 months later, is it still boom, 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 boom because things have fizzled out? So it's kind of like, you have to have that conversation about what, again, something that's core to you, how it, that for me, that's a core thing for me when I am with someone. That's important to me as much as me sitting down and we having a community, we're talking about things,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I know we about to get up off of this bad boy, but I just wanted to say this has been an honor, and I think we unlocked a lot of things, and I almost got emotional earlier when Lamar was talking because he talked when he brought up seeing his parents' relationship, that touched home. But I will say this to anybody who's listening at all out there: please respect your partner if you're in a relationship. Like, respect them. Don't just go out and talk to somebody else because you think your partner won't know what you're talking about. Find out how to communicate that with somebody. Like,
Mm.
don't just say, well, you don't understand me, I'm going out here and I'm going to talk to such and such about this situation. Figure out the best way to communicate with that person before you do that, because that's going to cause so much turmoil and so much fire in a relationship, and you're just adding to an already burning building. So you don't want to do that. You just want to be able to communicate with your partner, find out what their strengths are in communication, and communicate that way.
Thanks, Daryl, for that. Because I was going to say to end it, I wanted everyone to give some one thing that you think is so important as a relationship advice. So, Daryl, thank you. You just gave yours. So, Shanita, what is the one thing you want to leave our audience with when it comes to relationships?
Know yourself completely inside of the relationship, because if you don't, you can allow things to progress and things to get out of hand, and take things that you really shouldn't be taking inside of a relationship. So know yourself, make sure that you're happy within yourself, and that never think that because you're in something and you have ties with a person that you have to stay.
Mm, thanks for that. Eric?
Me already?
Yes, you, sir.
Well, no, I think what we touched on, and I said this earlier, the theme of the night for me is really maturity, right? That things take time, but you also have to look back and grow from the things that have happened. If you don't take the time to assess what's happening, your role, the other person's role, the other party's role, and how you can grow from it. One of the things that I say in relation to relationships all the time, and I literally just said this the other day to my young brother that I was talking to, is that relationships are like boxing. When you get in the boxing ring, it's the first thing that the referee tells you is protect yourself at all times.
Mm,
And the same thing applies when you're in a relationship. That don't mean be selfish, right? That
Mm.
doesn't mean that it's all about you, but what it means is that you got to come check yourself. You got to know what garbage, what trash, what trauma you're bringing
mm,
into the relationship. You got to be able to
Mhm.
listen to your partner and hear, right? And use active listening, use the ability to replay back to them what they said to you, how you
Mhm.
heard it, right? That's one of
Mhm.
the best ways to squash an argument, is to just repeat back to the person what they're saying, because then they can say, did I say that? I didn't say that. That's not what I said. Well, okay. And then they have to reflect on what it is that they're
Mhm. Mhm.
yes.
communicating to you. So maturity, always seek maturity in your relationship, and things can go from there.
Thanks, Eric. That was great. Great
Yeah.
advice. You up next, Lamar.
Yeah, I just want to kind of end it on this. I got a chance to reconnect with one of the people that I look up to in life. His name is George C. Frazier. If you don't know him, to George Frazier.
I was just talking about that.
Yeah. He was. I met him. Reconnected with him yesterday at a luncheon, and then he actually spoke at E9 today. So, but it's a couple things I'm gonna just say that he said. He was talking about relationships, being married, 50 years and everything, right? And this is a message to the ladies. And he said, listen, you know, it was about change. You know, sometimes we, and I think Shanice, you talked about it earlier about changing a guy and his perspective. But if he don't have a diaper on, you can't change him.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like he just won't be able to change. You won't be able
Mhm.
to change him. You know what I'm saying? And you got to understand this too. Don't chill with him if you cannot build with him.
Drop the mic.
You know what I'm saying? And then it's a message to us because he gave us a message, right? He said, when you got a queen, be careful. I love how you do that. When you got a queen, be careful on how you plan your cards.
Mm,
Right?
mm.
Queen. You know what I'm saying? Cards.
Like,
So, you know what I mean? I'm gonna just end I would just end it on that because he hit me with that knowledge. I had to, put that on there and like really let us know because this message on both ends. And I really love and I want to thank everybody for taking their time giving opening up to about their lives and about the situations that you've been with or that you've seen, the trauma that you have faced, because that's where we're at right now in this stage in life. Like now is the time that we move with it. You know how like they say, oh, black people, all y'all do is talk, right? And that's been true in the past because we've talked about it when it comes to economics or it comes to social justice. Going to like now it's time for us to build on it and build on this healing. And once we're able to heal, then all other aspects of life is going to come. Your relationships are going to come. You're going to attract who you want to attract. You're going to be who you want to be with. And we can forget all our failed and past relationships. But our failed and past relationships have made us who we are today. And let's just learn from them. Let's grow from them. And that's really build and understand the true essence of what love is and what that definition is to you. And if I believe it's God. I believe everybody, no matter what area in their life, they're always chasing love. So I believe that love is God. Even the hardest goon gangster thug. That's why they on the block. They're like, show me love, my dude. Show me love. There's always people are searching for love. You know what I'm saying? And we had to just get that right and understand what that means and what that looks like to you and what you've seen, and then you complete it, and then that's how you live a greater life when you understand more things. So, yeah.
that was good. Thanks, Lamar.
You.
Rana.
I think everybody brought up great points. I'm always going to go back to the self love. Like Shanita said, you have to know yourself first. You need to know what you like, what you don't like, what you want, what you don't want, what you bring to the table, what's great about you, so that when you get into a relationship, nobody can tell you who you are, and you're already moving towards what it is that you know that you need out of a partner. And I just think that that's so important because so many people get sidetracked by, what other people want them to do or who they want them to be, and then they try to be that person. It just doesn't work. So definitely, become introspective. Like Eric said, fix the things that you did wrong. I mean, none of us are perfect. So what are your faults? What can you fix? And looking for that person that meshes with you, equally yoked, or however you want to put it, that can really bring out the best in you, instead of chasing behind what society says you should have, because that might not, sit well in your spirit.
That was good. That was
Mhm.
good. Thanks, everybody. I think my final thing is that everyone made great points, talked about communication, loving yourself, amongst other things. And I just want to say this to my ladies that pay attention that when you're dating, listen to what that man is telling you. And I think I said this in our last session of what women want. A lot of times we talk to men and we hear them tell us directly, we hear them say they're not ready for a relationship, but we think that we can continue to love them and cook for them and be all of those things. And at the end of the day, we're the ones left hurt because they told you they weren't ready for a relationship. So we really have to start really listening and believing what they say, because what they say is exactly what they mean. And it will save you from hurt down the road. And the most important piece, again, is loving yourself. Know what makes you tick. Know what it is to take a bubble bath alone. Know what it is to take yourself out on Valentine's Day.
Mhm.
Know what it is to buy yourself some roses. Know what it is to take yourself out to dinner, because I've done it. I am so content with myself that if I am single for the rest of my life, I am content with that because I love me. Yes.
I do.
But however, my God has given me a promise. So my husband is coming. Let me make that clear. Okay. But one thing I will say with God's promise is that I had to get out of my own way. I could not continue to do the things the way I
Mhm.
wanted to do them. I have to wait until God's timing, and I
Right.
have to do it His way. And if it means years later, that's fine with me because, after a while, you get tired of starting over and over and over. So
Mhm.
take yourself out of the way and allow
Mhm.
God to do it His way because He has nothing but the best for you.
Right. Oh, yay.
So, guys, thank y'all for joining. I love you
Thank
all. Guys,
you.
my panelists, please stay on when I end this broadcast. Don't leave, guys, because I want to just have a little conversation amongst us. But for everyone that joined us, I really hope that you got some jewels out of this conversation. It is never too late to start the process of healing and loving yourself and going for what you want in a relationship. It is never too late. I don't care if you're 60 years old. It is never too late. So look at this. Go to Woman of Valor 74 YouTube. Watch our past two discussions on why men don't talk and what women want. Get that pen and paper ready because I promise you it was jewels dropped in all three of those relationship panels. And if you guys have any more questions, you can put them in the chat. I'll find them. I'll send them to everybody. But thank you guys for joining us. And everyone have a blessed and wonderful night tonight. Bye.
Bye.
Later. Appreciate y'all. Yes,
Mm.
indeed.